That means we officially are going to get started now. Okay, I'm recording our Zooming. Mr. Rio, Computer Literacy Zoom, Monday, October 12th. Wow, time flies. And homecoming's behind us. First announcement, as you guys don't already know, you guys got a 4-day weekend next weekend. So Friday, there's no school for students. Teachers report for PD Day. And a week from today, Monday, whatever a week from today is, will be 17, 18, probably around 19th or about. That will be a day off for everybody. So that includes me. I even get the day off, so that's not too bad. So I'm going to take a look here at start going over our assignments and where we're at. So we're going to go to classwork. And last week, we were doing, well, we've been doing Microsoft Word. Let me just back up a little bit about that. The first time I started doing Word with you guys, a couple of weeks ago, we ran into some issues. Issue number one, I had some tutorials done on Word for Mac, and they were a little bit different looking than Word for Windows. Issue number two, some students were going to the web version of Windows or Word, and the web version doesn't have a whole lot of features, which means you can't do our assignments because it's missing things like shapes. Okay, so hopefully everyone got that figured out. When you're on the Windows computer, you first get to that Windows screen, that little tile that says Office. Do not click that. That takes you to the web-only version of Office. We don't want that. We want the real version. So you click the little tiny square in the bottom of your screen in the bottom left. You get your applications that are on your computer listed, and you scroll down to the W's and find Word, and that's the full real version of Word for Windows. So after that week, I started using some tutorials that are professionally made for Word for Windows and then putting some assignments with it. So going back to last week, this first Word tutorial may not have been real exciting, but it's very important. It covered a whole lot of important skills that you're going to need for other things that we do. So it's not just about that assignment. It's about, I expect now that that's been covered, you know those skills. So we did that last week. And then then I had you do that binder part poster assignment. Let me talk about that for a moment. On one level, it's an easy assignment. And the 3 skills not covered in the previous Word tutorial, I put little mini 1 and 2 minute tutorials to cover all 3 of them. One is on text boxes, one is on how to change the page color in the background, and one is how to put a page border. Now, the one thing I didn't do here that I forgot could be an issue is when you guys started inserting photos, you had to find some photos from Binder Park Zoo on Google, and when you started inserting them, you couldn't move them around. And a couple of students contacted me. I didn't hear about it till today. So now that I know that, I'm going to post some info about that after this Zoom because I didn't have time to do it in between. But there's a little trick to doing that. There may be more than one trick to doing that, but I'm going to show a trick where I'm going to make a little mini video. I'll put it up here by this assignment. I'll put a reminder in the stream that I put something up here to deal with that. That's where the stream is important too. If there's something like that comes up, I'm going to put it in the stream. I may put it elsewhere too. So I'm going to show you a trick where you can click on the image that you inserted. You do something called a word wrap, and you set it. I do mine for tight, word wrap tight. And then once you do it, it changes something on the image. Now you can click it and drag it exactly where you want it. So I'll make a little tutorial video, real short, probably like a minute or so. And I'll do that right after the Zoom session. And then once you do that, that should solve the problem for those that were having trouble editing that, okay? Now, some people may have found another workaround, so I'm not saying that's the only way to do it. So that's just a couple of things I want to touch on last week. The audio editing last week was pretty easy. I gave you a fair amount of flexibility of what you used and what you did. If you're the people in class, we used GarageBand in the Mac lab and did that there. So, and like I said, from day one, you got a problem, contact me. And some of you did, and we help work things out. And if I don't hear from you and you don't turn in and you know, I'm going to get a lot stricter now on late work. The first couple of weeks, I cut some breaks. Now it's like, I guess you don't want any points from it, period. If you do turn in late work, make sure you're in touch with me. If it's a little late, like a week, not a big deal. You don't have to be in touch with me about that. But when it starts getting to be like something from week 2 or week 3 or week 4, you know, we got to discuss if you can still get credit for that. So if you are in touch with me and if I'm aware of any circumstances or whatever it may be, I may give you full credit or most credit for it. But it isn't like you can't just blow stuff off and then 2-3 weeks later say, hey, give me full credit. You know, I didn't feel like doing it for 3 weeks. That's not going to cut it, you know, unless you're in touch with me about some extenuating circumstances or something, you're expected to do it on time. And yes, some of you doing your work on time have contacted me. Things come up in your life, whatever it may be, internet issues come up, whatever, and I give some breaks out, you know, here and there. So I don't mind doing that for the people who are in touch with me and the people who are in good faith trying to stay caught up on everything. Okay, now this week, we got a couple of things going on. We're continuing Microsoft Word. I have a Word tutorial level 2. It's a little bit shorter. It's, you know, you make a project while you're going through some new skills, some different things. That should be pretty self-explanatory. Then I do another one here. We do 2 of our documents that we do for this class in about paragraph formatting. There is one tutorial up here already I found online. I don't really like it, but it uses the Windows version of Word. I will probably make my own to go with this. So I'll probably upload that. Most of you probably aren't going to get to that right now anyway. And I'm going to do that after this Zoom. So the bottom line is to make a document like this, okay? On first glance, I get basically 2 types of students. Student A knows how to do it properly. Properly means you type it. Now try to imagine everything just lined up on the left. No first line indent. Hit return twice after each paragraph. Okay. Now you highlight the paragraphs one at a time. Maybe you do the first one up here. Okay. So you highlight that paragraph. Let me see if I can get my, well, I'm not going to mark on here. And you go into paragraph dialog box and it's really easy. You can set a first line indent in there. You can set line spacing like double or 1.5 or whatever. You can set left align, right align, centered, justify, and it's really easy. Then you go to this paragraph here, you highlight the same thing, except this one, beside doing just a first line indent, you're also going and making it single space. You're also going to have your whole entire paragraph indent about 1 inch on each side. And then you're also going to justify. That's when it's lined up perfectly like that. So I'll make a little mini tutorial to help you to go with the one that's on there that should make this easy. And for the last paragraph here is pretty much same as the first paragraph right there. So paragraphs are actually very easy once you know how to use the paragraph dialog box. But yeah, I told you there's another type of student. The other type of student doesn't follow the tutorial, doesn't pay attention to using the paragraph dialog box, and they spend 2, 3, maybe 4 times as much time and effort trying to do this manually somehow, using space bars and whatever else they dream of. And they end up with a sloppy looking document. It never looks quite right, and it's a mess. And it took them 3 times as long or 4 times as long than doing it the correct way. So we're doing these here. So we're moving forward in Microsoft Word. Now, the next thing I'm going to talk about is photography. This week, and I'm not done with this photo editing up here. I just made a tutorial before the Zoom's here that's going to go up there, and I'm going to modify that. So that's not quite done yet, but I'll get to that in a minute. We're doing 2 things, a little bit of intro in photography in general, and then we'll be doing some stuff with Photoshop. So this one here is about photography basics. You're simply going to watch 2 videos. One is on photography in general, and one is on 5 tips for your best iPhone photos. We'll start with the first one. The first one is about photography in general. Basically, photography, it's only 10 minutes long. Basically, photography is about light. You have the aperture that decides how much light your camera lets in. So you can set it to let a lot of light in or a little bit of light in, depending if it's a bright day or if it's rather dark outside. Okay, and they're measured in what's called f-stops. And what's kind of ironic is the smaller the f-stop number, the bigger the opening is. So an f2 is way bigger opening than an f8 or an f16, which is quite small, f16. Now the other one, the other thing that you can control on photography is the shutter speed. So you can have it like 1/30th of a second, 1/60th of a second, 1/125th of a second, 1/250th of a second. And the main difference there is to understand at what point do I need a tripod? In other words, it's so slow that I can't hold it steady by myself. That would probably be about 1/30th of a second or below. Between 1/30th and 1/60th, you could probably hold it if you're careful straight. And then you get above that, you should be pretty fine for that. Now, the other extreme would be shooting like, say, sports, and you want to get some nice photos of people jumping over hurdles or jumping over a pole vault, and you want to get them midair and you want to get them frozen in the air. Then you probably want to shoot at about 1/500th of a second or 1,000th of a second, or at minimum 1/250th of a second. So you can set your cameras. Now, a lot of you might say, Mr. Rio, I use auto for everything I do. I don't set anything. You can do that, but it limits what you can do well. So if you can learn some features of your camera, whether it be a regular camera or on your smartphone, try to learn some more and practice. The more you practice things, the better you get. And there's a lot of tutorials and tips and other videos out there too. Now, I put in iPhone 5 tips only because I tried to look for ones that were just about smartphones in general. Now, these are tips for shooting good pictures. And a lot of the ones I found that were smartphones in general were made in other countries. They were poorly done. A lot of times it was hard to understand, and I didn't like any of them. So I found one for iPhone that was pretty nice. It's not that long. It's only 8 minutes. Even if you don't have an iPhone, it's about tips for better iPhone photos. I also put an option in there, if you do have an Android phone, to go ahead, find your own similar video, tips for shooting good photos on an Android phone, and you are welcome to do that in place of doing the one that I put up there. So like I said, you don't need an iPhone to do that, but if you want to choose a different video that may go along with your phone, if you have an Android phone, that's okay. You can substitute that and do that there. The purpose of that was to get you thinking about taking good photos. So you're not just picking up and pressing the record button, but or take a picture button, but you are, giving some thought to what you do. Okay, so that's photography. This here is just a fun little video you can watch. It's a minute long. It's not an assignment. Okay, don't panic. It's just celebrating 25 years of Photoshop, which is the next thing we're going to do. Now, this here is an unfinished lesson. So I'm not going to go into details of that because it's unfinished. Okay, it's not ready for you to do yet. But what is ready for you, excuse me here. I changed things. I was going to put this part of the lesson. I'm going to move the entire lesson to a different post. Now, what is this then? This is simply to get Photoshop. How do you get Photoshop? If you're in the hybrid class and you're at school this week, we're going to do this in school on Photoshop on the Macs. Don't have to worry about it. If you're not in the hybrid class, or if you are and you're not here this week for some reason, you can get Photoshop one of two ways. If you have a school Windows computer, go to the Software Center and download Photoshop. And Mrs. Rosen said it might be a big download because it is. And those computers, aren't really designed for Photoshop, but they should be okay for doing basic things. Now, if you have your own computer at home you're using, maybe a family computer or something, and you're like, hey, I'd rather do this assignment there, I put a link right here. And you take it to Adobe, and you can get a free trial for 14 days. Okay, you can try it out, download it, and use it for my assignments, and that would be okay. Now, some of you might say, Mr. Rio, what if I really wanted to get Photoshop at home? What do you recommend? Well, the real version, at a student teacher price, which is their cheap price, you can get, if you don't want the whole Adobe suite of all kind of programs they make, like Dreamweaver and Illustrator and Premiere Pro, you can get a special package for just Photoshop and Lightroom, which are both for photography, for about $10 or $12 a month. I know some students who've done that, but that's a month. So it's going to add up. It's going to be $120 a year or more. Now, if you want to buy another version of Photoshop that you just buy it once and download it or load it on your computer and keep it, that's the one you buy that's for consumers is called Photoshop Elements. Now, Elements is actually a great deal. For as little as $50, depending where you buy it, you got a pretty good version of Photoshop. It's about 80, 75, 80% of what regular Photoshop is. You can do a lot with it. You can get it for Mac or Windows, and you don't have to pay a monthly fee. If you do the Photoshop Lightroom package, like I said, it's about $10, $12 a month. If you want the whole Adobe suite, which is awesome, but that's a lot of software and you gotta have some pretty good computers to run it, you can get the whole Adobe suite of everything for $20, $25 a month if you're a student. So you can look into that. Okay, so I just realized I got moved off the staff internet. I may lose you just a second. Okay, I'm back in case anybody lost me there for a moment. I hope our Zoom is still going. I think it is. Okay, it's still recording, so I think we're still okay. But I was gone there just for a brief moment trying to fix the internet here. But either way, I'm going to go back to share screen. Okay, so I was leaving off saying that there's a version of Photoshop you can get for about 50, 60 bucks called Photoshop Elements. It has about 70, 80% of the regular Photoshop in it, and it's a good deal if you want to look into that. Okay, so that's what's going on with this here. I'm going to close that out. Okay, we're back to here. So I'm going to put another lesson up here. It's not here yet. This here is lesson files. This was not posted as an assignment. It's 3 images you're going to be using in a lesson that'll be posted a little bit later today. This here is just, I made it like an assignment, but all I want you to do is get Photoshop. Get it on your school Windows computer, or if you have your own computer at home, you want to download the 14-day free trial, do that so you can get that. So there's a lesson coming up that this will be used with. That's just a video you look at. Photography Basics is a standalone assignment. And then, of course, the documents in Word. So that's where we are now, though, like I said, there's the rest of the Photoshop assignment will come up. It's not going to be hard this week. You're going to do a little bit of editing on a photo or two, a little bit of text putting on it. We're going to go over some basic features. And it'll be, in my view, it's kind of fun and interesting. So I'm going to stop my sharing of my screen. And I'm going to, yep, we got our participants here. And I'm checking the chat to see if there's any questions here. I came back, so I'm going to put any questions. You can also unmute your mic because there's not very many of us here. Okay, like I said, after I get done with the Zoom, I'm going to be posting some stuff about paragraph dialog box. I'm going to post something about pictures for that poster or any assignment you're inserting images in a Microsoft Word, so you know how to do a little trick to be able to move them around. And like I said, you can get in touch with me anytime with any questions or problems or anything. So it should be pretty interesting. It's not that hard of a week, and we'll keep moving forward as best we can. So if there aren't any questions, if you can either put a goodbye or unmute yourself and say goodbye, that'd be great, so I don't feel so alone here. And we'll wrap this up, and I'll put the recording up for those who missed it. And good luck on these assignments this week. Okay? So take care, everybody. I should have undid this first, but have a good day. Thank you for the goodbyes there, and take cares. Okay, you too, and good luck on these assignments. If you got any questions, just text or email anytime. Okay, I'll be ending it here in just a moment. Have a good day.